Good afternoon. I have a real fire in my belly, and I want to really accomplish something significant environmentally. And in the next 10 minutes, I hope to share that passion with all of you. And to stoke this fire, I need a lot of fuel, okay? I go down to the farmer's market every Saturday morning, and I buy beautiful produce, fruits and vegetables. One of the ones I bought this morning is this lovely persimmon. It's persimmon season. Yeah, hooray. It's also apple season, as we all know, right? They're crisp and they're juicy and they're fresh, right? We all love that. What you see behind me are some figs that I bought about a month ago. Imagine with me, imagine this persimmon and these apples and these figs all chopped up together, put with some lettuce, and you make a beautiful salad that's really fresh, right? Delicious and nutritious. What if we could have a salad like that every day? Wouldn't we feel better about our bodies and about our health? Carrots, these carrots behind me, they're crisp. They're root vegetable. They're really good for you. You can make soups out of them. You put a little in some water in the fridge and they get them cool. And then you are studying and you're working and you're doing your thing and you need some energy and you want something healthy, and they give you an immediate boost and you can go knock it out of the park. Okay? What if, this is a result of healthy soil. This is a result of healthy soil on local farms where the farmers are able to grow these beautiful fruits and vegetables that then come to our homes. What if there were more farms like that? What if there was more healthy soil like that? And what if at the same time we could reduce greenhouse gas emissions and we can get some of this carbon out of the atmosphere and back into the soil? And what if at the same time we could help farms save water? Water is life. Water is so precious. And farms use a lot of water. Well, what if they didn't have to use as much water? Then that would leave more water available for cities and for rivers. And what if we sent less material to landfills? What if we could reduce the amount of material we send to landfills by a third? What if there was something we could all do, we could all participate in every day collectively that would help accomplish all of these goals? One thing. Well, I was lucky enough in my life to be part of something like that. And here it is. It's called Curbside Food Scrap Collection for Composting. This is a San Francisco story that is quickly becoming a global story. 29 years ago, in 1996, we started collecting banana peels, coffee grounds, eggshells, separately from other garbage. And when we started doing it, the executives at the biggest landfill companies said, no one's ever done it. The trucks are going to leak. This is a crazy idea in San Francisco. It's never going to work. Well, we made it work together with the city and with our customers. And the great news is now 600 cities in the United States have replicated this program that we're doing here in San Francisco. And thank you. And it's happening in lots of other places around the world. I've toured delegations from 135 countries that came here to see this with their own eyes, firsthand. I volunteered for a group in France called Zero Waste France, and they sent me to make this presentation in 35 cities. And then French officials started to come here. Okay, we started stoking that fire in people's gut, right, in France. And then it started to get into the press. And the politicians started to see that. They came here to see it, and then they went back and they started the program in Paris. And here's some great news. They passed a national law requiring every municipality in the country to make curbside composting convenient to their inhabitants and their businesses. Bravo, okay? And the program is also served as a model for California, this three-bin program that started here in San Francisco. So now every city in California is implementing this three-bin system. Every city in California, there's 400 cities, there's 58 counties. They're all implementing curbside food scrap collection for composting or something very similar to it to keep these materials, these eggshells, these coffee grounds, out of landfills. There's lots of different types of garbage. The most important type are those food scraps. That's where the nutrients are, and that's where the carbon is. Okay, so we want everybody to get a kitchen pail like this. The first thing you do is you put a paper napkin in the bottom. That helps absorb moisture and helps control odor. Then you put it in your green bin, and then we come by and we pick it up once a week at your house, and we take it to one of these composting facilities that we operate. They're outdoor facilities. There's no building, so there's a low barrier to entry. Now we operate 8 of these composting facilities on the West Coast. And then the compost, which is a beautiful nutrient-rich soil amendment, gets delivered to local farms. And they use it, they use a broadcaster on the back of a tractor, and they broadcast ½ an inch of compost across the farm. And that like, you know, nice thin layer. And real quickly, the microorganisms that are in the topsoil come up and start eating that. It switches on the life web in the 14 inches of topsoil that grows our food. And when the soil is healthy, the plants are healthy. And the farmers can grow beautiful beets like what you see in this picture. You also see some very long carrots there just to the right of them. Cabbages, savory cabbages. This is delicious. This is delicious and nutritious. And we can have a lot more of this in the world. This is Nigel Walker. He grows many different varieties of tomatoes. I encourage you to look at this picture the way a farmer would look at this picture. Farmer doesn't necessarily look at the fruit. The farmer looks at the whole plant the way the doctor looks at a whole body. Nigel's tomato plants are so big and healthy, he had to put in these giant poles just to hold them up. Remarkable. This is called Romanesco, okay? You can buy it at the farmer's market. You chop it up, stir it in a little olive oil, roast it for 20 minutes and put some salt on top. It's the bomb. It's delicious, okay? Nutritious and delicious. We can have a lot more of this. This here picture here is from a vineyard, Makami vineyard near Stockton in the Central Valley, owned by a Japanese family. This picture was taken at the end of the last drought. That was a 3-year drought. It didn't rain, hardly, for 3 years. Yet look at these plants. Look at the giant leaves on those plants, and look at that harvest. How is that possible? Because the Makami family was putting lots of compost on this vineyard. The soil was very healthy, and compost is a natural sponge that attracts and retains water. And compost, when you apply compost, it feeds those microbial colonies. They're really happy, they start having babies, and the soil gets softer. And agronomists will tell you when you apply compost, it makes the soil more water efficient. That means that when it rains or there's irrigation, the water can move quickly vertically down through the soil, 5 feet down, 4 feet down, and it stays down there. So when you have a heavy rainstorm, you charge the water table. And you don't have erosion because your soil is water efficient. It goes right down. So you don't lose topsoils to erosion. They don't run off the farm. We don't need to build more reservoirs. We can turn our farms into reservoirs. We need more compost. We need more cities to implement curbside food scrap collection for composting. One program we can all participate in, lots of benefits. Pretty cool. There's no such thing as a silver bullet, but this is pretty close. This has a lot of positive outcomes. And it's right in front of us. You know, it's sometimes in life we look past the beautiful things and fail to see something beautiful that's right in front of us. This is one of those things. The banana peels, the coffee grounds, the apple cores, all those food scraps together with the sticks and the leaves from yards and gardens. Farmers love this stuff because it's a perfect mix of feedstock to make compost. These are table grapes from one vine in a place where it's 100 degrees for 100 straight days. How's that possible? How's that possible? Because the soil is so healthy and the water, remember we talked about the water going down 4 feet? Well, guess what? At night, when the moon comes over the farm, just like when the moon comes over the bay, the gravity of the moon pulls the water of the bay up. The gravity of the moon pulls the water in that 4 feet down, pulls the water up to give those trees and those vines a drink at night. That's really cool. Okay, this is Bob Schaefer. He was a farmer and he got very interested in compost and studied and became an agronomist. And here he's a tremendous advocate for this program. Here he is showing some of the celery that they can grow using compost. Okay, well, I mentioned greenhouse gas emissions and carbon. When we compost, we keep food scraps out of landfills. Landfills are the third largest source of greenhouse gas emissions in this country. And so we don't want to send our food scraps to landfills anymore. If we can compost them instead, then we can avoid a lot of those greenhouse gas emissions. And the farmers can use the compost where they grow row crops like wine grapes, and they can use the compost to grow cover crops like mustard. You see mustard in this picture. Believe it or not, that's a vineyard. That's Chateau Montelena outside Calistoga, north of Napa. And they're using compost to grow cover crops that pull carbon out of the atmosphere, and they grow long roots, right, that are 100% carbon, and they pull that carbon and they pull nitrogen out of the atmosphere and they push it back into the soil with their roots. These cover crops then become part of the biomass that further feeds the microbial colonies in the soil. And these cover crops cover the soil just like my shirt covers my arm here and protects it from the sun, from drying up. So that's really good too. Here's a tighter shot in Rutherford of the mustard grown with cover crops. This is really good for the environment, and it's good for bees. And without bees, we lose a third of the foods we eat, including persimmons. Oh, I wasn't supposed to step off the red. This is an almond orchard in Stockton, and you can see the beautiful blooms there, and you can see the cover crops that are grown between the trees. This farmer uses lots of compost made from our food scraps. This is a pie chart that shows, this was done by engineers that looked at what cities in America were sending to landfills. So they put on, Tyvek suits and rubber gloves, and they got garbage right out of the garbage trucks, garbage that was headed to the landfills, and they put it in buckets and analyzed it, and they created this pie chart. And it shows that a third of the material that we send to landfills could instead be composted. It's the biggest piece of the pie. It's our biggest opportunity. Composting is our biggest opportunity to send less material to landfills. bravo to the city of San Francisco for figuring that out in the 90s. The smartest minds in agriculture, in the U.S. Department of Agriculture, well, we're going to guess when it happened, but they published a book. And in this book, they begged the cities to implement compost collection programs, food scrap compost collection programs, so that compost could be made to get back onto farms. When do you think they published this book? 1938. It took 58 years for any city to answer the bell. San Francisco answered that bell in 1996. And we made it work. And now lots of places, Paris, France, lots of places, South Korea. It's just absolutely part of the culture in South Korea. Everyone has a kitchen pail. Everybody composts. This is a really good thing, and it's taken off. It's becoming global. And I'm asking you all to take in some of this passion, take in some of this desire. When we all pull for something, it can happen. When we all demand it, it can happen. When we tell our city council members and our mayors we want this, we can make it happen in more cities. One of the best ways to make this happen, to make it go, is to teach kids about composting. A bunch of researchers went out and they looked at what is the best way to get adults to recycle. And they looked at direct mail, they looked at billboards and other outreach, and they looked at community presentations. They measured all this stuff. But they found that teaching kids was the best way to get adults to recycle and compost, because the kids go home and they say, hey mom, hey dad, we compost at school. Why don't we compost at home? The next day, dad has a kitchen pail on the kitchen counter. That's changing human behavior. That's making things go. So there's a handful of other, activities, actions that can make this go, but the core of it is the desire, the hunger, the appetite. When we all want this to happen, because it's good for all of us collectively, it's good for our kids, our parents, it's good for the planet, it's good for the animals, it's good for the atmosphere, it's good for the water. When we all demand it, when we all fight for it and push for it, we can make it happen. Thank you very much.